Welcome to Tech Bites with Dan Hafner, your gateway to the future of innovation and technology. Dive into the exciting world of software where cutting-edge tech meets creativity. Explore no-code solutions that empower businesses to thrive without traditional barriers. Hear inspiring stories from tech pioneers and industry leaders who are changing the game. Join us on Tech Bites and transform the way you think about technology and business.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. My name is Dan Hafner. This episode of Today in Tech, it's what the heck is today? July 22nd. Well, good morning, good afternoon to wherever you are. Thank you for joining in. I appreciate you guys coming back and checking out the show. Got some very interesting stories today. I'm going to give my thoughts on the whole Kiss Cam stuff with the CEO getting caught at the Coldplay concert. That's a very interesting thing. But a couple other interesting stories today we're going to talk about. U.S. is accelerating AI leadership with some action plans. There's some AI gun detection technology, which is very interesting and expanding in U.S. schools. And then another story again about tech leaders highlighting the AI-driven workforce shift and how skills are shifting and all kinds of cool stuff. So a lot of very, very interesting stories. And then, like I said, probably if we have time, I'll get to my thoughts on the astronomer CEO whole thing that's been taking over the internet. So I have a couple thoughts on that as well. So thank you again for joining Today in Tech. Really appreciate all of you coming on here. And please subscribe to the show, whether you're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to subscribe and like and share the show. And this episode is brought to you by our product called Launchpad. So if you are an entrepreneur, founder, or even a small business, and you have all kinds of different tools all over the place, it's very easy to get subscription fatigue. This is how I started my business. You start and you get an email subscriber, then you get a funnel builder, and then you get a texting thing, and then you get a form builder, and you get all these different things all over the place. And it's a chaotic mess, and it's just a pain in the butt. So you can check out Launchpad. You can go to launchpadproject.net. You can subscribe for as little as $100 a month. We even have a la carte options if that's even too expensive for you, where we can even do $49, $67. You can kind of pick and choose the features you want. It's very customizable, very particular for any kind of small business or solo founder out there. So go to launchpadproject.net and get subscribed there. You can try it free for 14 days. Okay, so that out of the way, let's get into today's show. So I'm going to pull up this first story here. Let me get it up here. All right. U.S. is accelerating AI leadership with new national action plan. President Trump is set to unveil the U.S. AI action plan at the upcoming Winning the AI Race Summit, emphasizing American leadership through in AI through innovation, economic competitiveness, national security, and a pro-growth vision of human flourishing. The plan will prioritize deregulation and reject progressive social agendas in AI, marking a shift from the previous administration's regulatory approach. Very interesting. Meanwhile, new data highlights that India has supplied over 10,000 AI professionals to the U.S. workforce between 2019 and 2024. That's actually crazy, bolstering American AI innovation at major tech firms and sustaining U.S. global leadership in the field. This talent migration underscores a significant geopolitical dynamic, with India leading AI talent exports despite challenges of brain drain, while other countries show varied patterns. Additionally, emerging AI startups such as Suno AI, Ideogram, Anthropic, Runway ML, and Figure AI are innovating in areas ranging from AI-generated music and images to ethical AI chatbots and humanoid robots, signaling dynamic growth in the AI's ecosystem. Interesting. So India is exporting about 2,000 AI professionals to the U.S. workforce a year over the last 5 years, 10,000 over that time frame. That's pretty ridiculous. That's wild. I mean, man, what an interesting story. So here are my thoughts on this story. I mean, are we in a new Cold War, right? Are we in a new arms race, right? You know, we're we just talked about in the last episode last week about all the different energy investments and things that are coming into particularly my home state of Pennsylvania, with billions and billions of dollars being invested in, revamping some of these local industries and outdated mills and different things like that into energy sources. What this is how I'm a student of history. I was actually going to be a history teacher. That was my very first career choice, believe it or not. And it was very interesting that to see how the Cold War went and how it was a big arms race. And in the end, we were outspending the Soviet Union, and there was all this hype around, hey, they're getting this, and they're up to this, and they're up to that. And when you look back at that, there was actually a lot of bullshit in that, because there was a lot of things that were just hyped up to get us to spend and grow, and that was kind of the military industrial complex at the time, right? I wonder if the same thing is kind of going on here. I wonder if we are. What is the real truth? Is China way ahead of us in AI? Is Russia ahead of us in AI? Is China still way behind us in the AI arms race? I don't really know. It's pretty interesting to think about, like, can you actually trust the sources that we read here? Can you actually trust that we are, you read one article that says AI or China is 10 years ahead of us in AI, and then you read another one where they're 10 years behind us. Like, what do you believe, right? I mean, just from my perspective, this is how I process this. I would say that I would think you'd be silly to believe that a country like China is not far behind the U.S. But I would also think it would be silly to assume that they're way, way, way ahead in terms of just overall capabilities, right? So I think it's, I always remember when I played college football, our coach would always say, when you'd watch game film, it's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. You always kind of are in the moment and you think you really screwed up that play, or you really did an awesome job on that play. It's best to kind of keep kind of towards the middle, where it's like, yeah, it was really good, but there's also things you can always improve. But maybe you really screwed something up, but you also maybe did something right there. And I think this is kind of the same thing. Maybe the U.S. isn't as far ahead as we think we might be, but maybe we're not as behind as we think we might be. So, and this exporting of AI professionals to the U.S. workforce from India is actually an astonishing thing. That's like kind of a news story. That's like almost like a buried headline in there, honestly. That's absolutely wild. I mean, what are we doing as a country to cultivate, AI learning and AI professionals inside of our own country? Actually Americans who are born here. That I'd be very interested in hearing some statistics on that and how that is coming along. Hey, America's the land of opportunity, baby. You can come here. This is a modern day gold rush. And if people from India are coming here to build these careers and build this technology for the United States of America, more power to them. I'm all for that. That is the beauty and the promise of this country of America, is that you can come here with your skills, with your heritage, with your background, and it does not matter. You can still make it. You have the American dream is still alive, and I'm sure they're being paid very well inside of their roles, whatever they're doing, but also contributing to the growth and the progress of the United States AI, furtherance and dominance in this field. So I'm very, very excited to see that. Very, very interesting story. Okay, let's go on to our next story here. This is an actually interesting one. I hope that this will also not be a super controversial one. But I have a special tie to this one, because I actually did a senior project on this where I went to school. So AI gun technology expands in U.S. schools. Very interesting. AI technology is increasingly integrated into various security systems, raising both opportunities and concerns around privacy and data security. In schools, AI-powered systems like Zero Eyes use cameras to detect brandished weapons within seconds, significantly reducing response times and potentially saving lives during active shooter incidents, as implemented in multiple Iowa districts. Meanwhile, consumer home security cameras with AI features offer conveniences such as detecting suspicious activity and identifying visitors, But these benefits come with privacy risks, including potential data breaches and misuse of personal information, prompting some users to opt out of AI functionalities. Additionally, enterprise applications face new security challenges with autonomous AI agents making outbound API calls, creating a complex network traffic pattern that current infrastructure struggles to monitor and control, leading to potential vulnerabilities and escalating costs. So the demand for specialized infrastructure, such as AI gateways, is growing to manage this agentic AI traffic effectively. Across the board, while AI enhances security and efficiency, it also necessitates a vigilant consideration of privacy protections and new security frameworks. Very interesting story. So, so I brought this up just because. So I mentioned I have a very interesting connection to. I love these kind of stories because where I went to school at Allegheny, there was a senior project everyone had to do before you graduate. It was part of the curriculum there. And my senior project, I was a political science major, believe it or not. I was not a tech person all my life. I did a project that was basically, it was an analysis of some of the largest school shootings or, shooting incidents that had happened up to that point. This is back in 2011, 2012. So I looked at the Columbine shooting. I looked at the Virginia Tech shooting. My wife actually went to VCOM down there. And then I actually looked at the senator who was tried to be murdered. What was her name? Kathy Giffords, I think. And those were kind of the biggest stories at that time that I had looked at. And the idea was, does policy on a federal level change in any regards to firearm restrictions or safety or anything like that? And in short, I'll save you guys reading the 90-page thing I did. No, it was not at a federal level. There were some things that changed at local or state levels based on those, but not at a federal level. And there's a whole big political conversation we can get into with the Second Amendment and all that kind of stuff there. But in terms of this story, this is interesting. So AI technology is really being put into these security systems that can detect, if somebody has a gun in their pants or, in their backpack or things like that. That's crazy, and I think for a lot of us, I'm not a parent yet. I don't have kids in school, but for those of you who do, I'm interested what you think about this. Is this a privacy concern for you that there's, this technology being used, or is it, this is kind of the ultimate debate always with technology and with, government overreach and things, is what is the priority? Is the priority security or is the priority privacy? Right? These two things, I think this is a very, very interesting conversation to have, because as AI, as technology just accelerates so incredibly fast, this is what happened with the Edward Snowden links, right? There was the Patriot Act was signed after 9/11. The NSA got very, very in depth with metadata and gathering all this stuff. And then Edward Snowden came out and blew the whistle and said, hey, these guys are gathering data on all of us Americans and using this data without our consent. And it was kind of rammed through with this Patriot Act stuff. Is the same thing happening with AI? Are these companies that are, building this stuff so incredibly fast, has the boat already been missed on the ability to put guardrails on it, to put safeguards, to say, hey, you're actually taking our data without our consent and using it in certain ways, or you're actually scanning my body without my consent to see, maybe I do have a pocket knife, but I carry it for legitimate purposes, right? Now I get arrested. And yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. What is the priority? Security, privacy. It's a very, very interesting concept. So I'm interested for any of you out there that might want to, leave any kind of feedback on this. I'm curious what you think about, this type of technology being included in schools, being, implemented and stuff. It's interesting because so my wife, obviously we have dogs. If you guys didn't hear that growling thing, if I didn't edit it out, we have these Furbo cameras, and they will send you notifications, and they clearly have AI stuff involved in them, because we'll get a notification that says, hey, your pet is chewing on something, like when they're playing with their toy in the living room. or they'll jump up on the couch when I'm not home, and they'll say, "Hey, dog is laying on the couch." Or your dog is barking. We actually get alerts when they bark, like just like he was about to. Um, so it's like that kind of stuff, which is very innocent stuff. It's like you can keep an eye on your dog and your pets at home. But what if there's alerts, or I'm sure these technologies have said, hey, there is a potential threat flagged here. There is an active, there's possible active shooter incident happening over here. That's a very, very interesting thing. I mean, I think about all these different incidents where there was, response times were slow. Things were not taken into consideration right away. And that is a very, very interesting use case for this, because how many lives could that possibly save? I know that was one of the things where Virginia Tech became one of the forefront leaders in this rapid alert technology, because there was 32 or 33 people that were killed in that, and there was response times were not as fast back then. So very, very interesting article. I just wanted to kind of bring up as like that's a very interesting use case, but also you could get into arguments around, hey, that's a violation of privacy. But hey, I want to make sure that my children are secure and that we're actually deploying the technology that's possible and that's available out there to potentially save lives. So a very, very interesting conversation to have around the security versus privacy topic. So anyway, just wanted to bring that story to the forefront there. And then finally, last story today. Actually, I'll get into the astronomer stuff. Very interesting story here. Let's go to this one. I mean, this is a little bit of something we've talked about in past episodes, but this is a very interesting one. So tech leaders highlight AI-driven workforce shift, emphasize adaptability skills. Again, I kind of talked a little bit about this before, but let's just read through this one, see what's going on. So AI technology is rapidly transforming the workforce and the skills valued in the new economy. Gabe Newell highlights a paradox where individuals without programming backgrounds may become more effective developers by leveraging AI tools, though understanding the underlying technology enhances effectiveness. Amazon's milestone of managing over 1 million robots with its Deep Fleet system exemplifies the shift from repetitive labor to roles requiring adaptability, system thinking, and judgment, pressuring industries to automate and upskill. Salesforce projects a 327% growth in AI agent adoption by 2027, increasing productivity, but reshaping job roles, emphasize soft skills like collaboration and creativity, with tech leaders advocating for generalist skill sets combined with technology use. That's interesting right there. Despite the hype around AI investments, a report warns that 40% of agentic AI projects may be canceled due to cost and unclear value, emphasizing the need for human-centered AI approaches that focus on real business and user benefits. Wow, that's pretty wild. So there's a lot here. Let's start from the top. So, this paradox where individuals without programming backgrounds may become more effective developers by leveraging AI tools. This is what I've been preaching from the rooftops about the no-code revolution for years at this point. If you are not a programmer, if you are not a developer, if you are not someone who knows how to code, aka me, you can still build software. You can still build things. I run a literal software development agency called Dapper No Code, right? I don't know how to code. I never learned how to code. I tried for like 2 weeks and I never was able to do it. And that was before AI was able to write all my code and do all this other stuff. I mean, it's possible. I'm literally living proof that you can do that. You can build a 6 or 7 figure business on top of this skill, right? By leveraging no code, and now basically AI is no code. And you can really do this stuff, even though, like they do say, if you understand the underlying models and the underlying technology, it can improve your effectiveness, but you don't really have to. But there was an interesting sentence down here. Let me find it here. So tech leaders advocating for generalist skill sets combined with technology use. Think about this. Like my generation, the millennial generation, right? We were told, go to school, get a specialized degree, and then go into the workforce and make money. That was that's the whole point of going to school, is that you get a specialized degree. Maybe you go to be a lawyer, you go to be a doctor, you go to be, a specific role that your degree has now produced you to be. Or maybe you even go into, again, like even like a business, right? Now they're advocating, hey, be a generalist, be a Swiss Army knife, be able to do all these things like collaborate, be creative, think originally. And the technology will then facilitate your like those soft skills, right? And I've always said that I really think one of the biggest benefits and the biggest takeaways that I had from my expensive education at Allegheny was those soft skills, the ability to communicate like I do inside of here, the ability to think critically, the ability to not just take somebody at their word or take a story at their word, but to actually think differently and to think analytically at a level that allows me to see different perspectives, but not also be triggered by different perspectives, right? Those soft skills I think are still they're always going to be valuable, clearly. And now if you learn how to then layer the AI technology on top of your existing soft skill set, this is where they're saying you can actually just explode in terms of your career potential and your earnings potential and all this different stuff. Because I will say that I will say it, and I've said it again, and I will say it again, that critical thinking, I think, is the biggest skill set that you could ever learn. If you learn nothing else in your life, learn to think critically, learn to question things, learn to not take everything at face value and investigate why. Why does this work this way? Why is someone motivated in this way? Why? Ask why. It's like literally the best question you could ever ask about anything. And then dig into that. Go down that rabbit hole. Ask the next why. Be like a 2-year-old, right? Why? And you get to the bottom of things eventually. And that's what's interesting, because then once you start to do that, you start to be able to see things. Okay, I can take this puzzle piece over here and plug it in here. This makes sense. This is why this gear works, right? Like, how do the inner workings of a clock work? Because all these gears grind on each other and they make things go, and they do it in a sequence, right? That's a very, very interesting skill set to learn. Yeah, and then another story that was kind of buried in here, right? This report warning that 40% of agentic AI projects may be canceled due to cost and unclear value. I mean, how many times do you see that? Like, there's so much funding going around inside of all these tools, inside of all these things and these startups. But like, is it just because it's a good idea, or is it because it actually has value, because it actually has market value, right? That's wild. They're just throwing money at things, and then they're going to be canceled because of, unclear, just because of way too much cost and unclear value, right? Because there still has to be a human touch. There still has to be a human connection. There has to be these things that actually show that we are, that we're progressing, that we're actually using these things, not just because they're cool, but because they're actually useful. So that's actually wild. That's very, very wild. The last sentence here, actually, I don't think I read it. Educational offerings like a beginner-friendly chat GPT and automation e-degree, interesting, reflect the growing demand for practical AI literacy across professions, enabling workers to harness AI effectively without prior expertise. Yeah, man, this is very, very interesting. We offer that as well. AI audits, AI training. We're getting more into that as well. So, I mean, this is really, really amazing story. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about all of this. So, yeah. And then the last story, I have the story here. I'll just pull it up to show you, but I did want to offer my thoughts on the CEO thing that's just been captivating the internet. Apparently the astronomer interim CEO is speaking after former CEO resigns amid the Kiss Cam scandal. Yeah, I'm going to give a different perspective than just like the technical. Like, I don't give a shit about their business or what they do or how they work or how it all works. Honestly, I really don't care. What my interesting thoughts around this were, why that guy was there in the first place and what he was doing there, And I mean, that company is a very big company. I think they're almost like $1 billion company or something like that. So why would the co-founder, who I believe was married with like 3 kids, be out there with his with the head of HR, which in I think was the one thing that made it the most ironic thing, doing that type of stuff, right? And then his statement was a whole nother level that made me that made my blood boil as well. But um, you know, I think my thoughts on it anyway are that's very easy to happen, for people at that level. And even if, I mean, even if that was a woman CEO and the guy was the head of HR, I think when people get to that level, and I've never been at that level of success, so it's hard for me to. I've never built like $100 million company, right? But it's hard for people to. It's easy to get just complacent in that success and complacent in having all that money and complacent in well, I've just made it and I'm the shit and I did this and I'm the man or I'm the woman and everyone should bow down before me. um it's hard to stay hungry, it's hard to stay humble, and it's very hard to stay focused on the things that really matter. I think when that level, you've seen this happen way too, and this probably is happening in so many other relationships and so many other businesses that are just never going to be exposed at this kind of level. But I've been a part of a program for a long time called Wake Up Warrior, and I've talked about that before on the podcast, and I'll continue to talk about it. It's run by a man named Garrett J. White. He's awesome. I will sing their praises till the cows come home. But he's talked about this for years, is that the pain of abundance is actually stronger than the pain of scarcity. And that's a very interesting idea and a triggering idea for some people, but I've been in both, right? I've been in very, very much scarcity. I've gotten myself out of there. I wouldn't say I'm in prosperity or even high abundance, but gotten to the place where it's not like we're dead broke and life sucks like it used to, but I've been there. And the pain of scarcity is knowing like, okay, I have no money, I have no relationship, I have like, I'm super fat, overweight, whatever it might be for you. And I just need to get out of this. Like that path is very clear. That path is very clear to be like, here's what I need to do to fix my life. It's very hard when when you're physically fit, you have lots of money, you maybe have a beautiful husband or wife, you have a family, you have a really nice house, you have really nice cars, you have really successful business, you have people working for you. That's actually much harder, right? More money, more problems, right? And that is a very interesting place to be, because the weight of all this stuff is weighing on you all the time. You never really get a reprieve from it, but that is what causes people like this to go cheat, to do these types of things. Because I mean, what was he seeking? He was seeking a dopamine hit, right? And he was seeking that dopamine hit of like, man, I'm carrying the weight of this business, I'm carrying the weight of this family, I'm carrying the weight of all this stuff, and for whatever reason he couldn't find the relief from that in the arms of his wife. So what does he do? He goes to another woman, and it's really sad, and it's really terrible that would be the thought of that. And obviously none of us know like the dynamics of their marriage or their family or whatever, but marriage is not easy. I've been married for 7 years. And I was been with my now wife for 13. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. I think marriage is one of the hardest things we do in life. But it's worth it when you work on it, and it's worth it when you actually do the work to make sure that it is a place that you can go. And yeah, you might come home from a hard day at work and have to fight with your spouse over some things or argue about some certain things, or like life is messy. Life is not fun a lot of times. But do you choose to carry the weight of figuring that out, or do you choose to carry the weight of what he has to figure out now? Not having a business, not having a job, not having a family, not having a future, right? What weight is harder to carry? That's the question I would ask, So those are just kind of my thoughts on that. And, if you guys are at all interested in learning more about the Wake Up Warrior stuff, just you can message me directly. I believe, I don't even know what their site is. I think it's just wakeupwarrior.com. Very, very powerful stuff. If you own a business, if you run a business, Garrett J. White is the man. He's my guy. I follow him like all the time. Use their tools. I actually use the software to run this show and kind of do a lot of different stuff with it. So big fan of those guys. and what they got going on over there. So yeah, those are my thoughts for today on Today in Tech. I really appreciate all of you guys joining in. We're going to be back here Friday same time, noon Eastern, with some new stories. And if you guys have any other stories that you might want to see, leave them in the comments. Anything you want me to talk about or address or bring on the show, I'd love to hear from you guys about that. So just leave comments or send me a message directly. And yeah, guys, that is all for this. You can obviously go to dappernoco.com to check out more about what we do. If that is at all interesting to you, have some really cool new stuff coming your way in terms of all of that different stuff, like I mentioned with AI and all this different things. So anyways, to save myself from rambling, I'm going to sign off now. So appreciate all of you. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bites, your go-to show for software business and technology. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with our latest episodes, insights, and stories. Hungry for more? Dive deeper into the world of no-code by visiting dappernoco.com. Your journey to building amazing software without coding skills starts there. Connect with like-minded creators and unlock a world of resources tailored just for you. Subscribe now.